Hey guys, real quick before we start the video, I'm working on a top 10 list of the best new Cars Diecast of 2024 as chosen by my viewers. So, if you're interested and would like to vote, please click the link in the description and vote for who you think the best new release of the year was. Now on to the video. If you told me even just 5 years ago that there would one day be a 2-pack with Jackson Storm and Miguel Camino together, I don't think I would have believed you. But thanks to the GRC, here we are now. This expanded universe line, launched as part of the 2024 main line, has gone over incredibly well with Cars fans, thanks to it bringing back the World Grand Prix racers with brand new designs as they all compete in the Global Racers Cup. But one element of this series that I thought was going to be rather controversial when it was first announced is the fact that it includes Jackson Storm and Cruz Ramirez. I thought a lot of people were going to be upset over their inclusion, but to my surprise, this also went over pretty well, and these two have been embraced pretty openly as a part of this diecast line, even though they're not World Grand Prix racers. I honestly really like their inclusion here. This line has been promoted as a big rematch race between McQueen and Francesco. We can see that the race is hosted in Radiator Springs, and I like the concept that Cruz and Jackson are invited to come along. Cruz especially because, McQueen trains Cruz and they're good friends. Why Jackson is there, I guess is a bit more iffy, but having the two of them be there is honestly really, really cool. Of course, from a marketing perspective, it works super well because they are newer characters and super popular characters from Cars 3, and combining them with the Cars 2 characters is, in my opinion, just such a cool concept. The fact that these two are in a 2-pack, they know each other, it's canon, that's honestly absolutely wild to me, and it's so, so cool. Anyway, guys, welcome back to another review, and to another 2024 Cars Diecast review. Today, we're going to be continuing to expand my GRC collection as we take a look at Jackson Storm and Miguel Camino. For some reason, I cannot get his name right today. This is the second take where I've almost called him Gamel Makino. Which is insane on my end, and I'm very, very sorry. I got this 2-pack back in around mid-December. I'm sure many of you saw it in the background of pretty much the entire back half of my 25 Days of Suggestion series last month, as it was set to be my next review, but with all the 25 Days reviews, I wasn't able to get it out in time. Then I took a break from doing reviews for a few weeks, and then I came back and decided to review a few other items instead. But now we're back to doing daily reviews on the channel, and we're kicking off the new set of daily reviews with these guys. So I'm not pushing them back any further. We're also not pushing back poor Shifty here, who was also a review that I've had to push back quite a bit due to other releases that I had to review. I'm going to go over the order in which I'm reviewing items in my review tomorrow, because it's a little complicated. I have several different types of items I have to review right now, and I'm trying to alternate between all of them. I'll break that down another time. For now, let's focus on this 2-pack. So nice artwork of Jackson and Miguel here, of course, edited based on their normal artwork to feature some GRC elements. Really nice art of the GRC sort of speedway in the background, complete with Willie's Butte. New for 2024, we've got Jackson and Miguel staring each other down. It's going to be really interesting to take a look at these two items. I haven't even talked about the diecast themselves yet. I was too busy talking about how interesting it is to have these two characters together. So we'll get into that in a bit. We, of course, have the little logos, the emblems with the GRC logo and the number 5. Of course, this is based on the design that we see on all of the World Grand Prix racers in Cars 2, but now it's also been given to Jackson and Cruz in this series, and it is kind of trippy to see Jackson Storm's number, the 20 with the little decimal making it look like a 2.0, written in a sort of World Grand Prix style emblem. This is fan service done right. That's what the GRC is, in my opinion. On the back, you can see the two GRC 2-packs for 2024 with McQueen and Shu and Jackson and Miguel. Honestly, pretty disappointing, in my opinion, that neither of these 2-packs included exclusive releases. But hey, I can't complain. US Cars distribution in 2024 ended up being so bad that this was the only way that I got Shu, Jackson, and Miguel, so I guess I can't complain. Still haven't seen any of those 3 items in store, unfortunately. Let's pop these guys out of the package. A really nice detail about this card back is that the hexagon pattern from the GRC is actually done all across it, which is super cool. For those of you who don't know, all the GRC cars have this sort of hexagon pattern on the back that kind of fades in. We're going to get started by taking a look at Jackson here, and Jackson's GRC variant is a diecast that honestly really surprised me. In my opinion, Mattel has never really made a good expanded universe Jackson Storm. We've had several. They've all been perfectly fine, but there's never been an expanded universe Jackson Storm that I could say really blew me away with how good it looked. In my opinion, nearly every expanded universe Jackson we get looks just too similar to his regular old base design, and I've really been wanting them to experiment more and more with doing more unique, more different looking Jacksons. And honestly, when I saw the GRC Jackson Storm at first, I was like, oh great, it's another generic Jackson variant. But as soon as I started seeing images of collectors getting it in hand, I knew that this one was something special. GRC Jackson Storm does still suffer from some of the issues that a lot of Jacksons have, where he still looks quite similar to his regular variant. I think the hood is always the biggest dead giveaway. They never change Jackson's hood in a substantial way, and I think if they just did that, it would make him look a lot more interesting. But other than that, this Jackson is, in my opinion, a massive step in the right direction for designs of these expanded universe Jackson Storms. And honestly, I'm really shocked to say this, but GRC Jackson Storm is probably in my top 3 favorite GRC diecasts. Honestly, he might even be my personal favorite. I know that's absolutely ridiculous to say, but I have seen a lot of other people agree that he's a really great item, and yeah, I think he honestly is. This is one great looking Jackson Storm. Start off by taking a look at the face. Absolutely love the facial expression here. I think it's a really great, really in character eye expression for Jackson. There's a sort of bored annoyance that's such a prevalent part of his character, and while the classic determined face we often get works pretty well for Jackson as well, I think that this one looks like it was pulled straight out of the movie. We've seen this sort of face for Jackson before. We've seen similar things on the Racing Red variant and also the Glow Racer. This is probably my favorite usage of this sort of bored Jackson face here. In place of the Igniter logo on the hood, we instead have a GRC logo, which stretches all the way across Jackson's roof, which is really cool. One thing that a lot of the GRC cars do pretty consistently is continuous designs that go across the body of the car, and that's something that I always really love whenever the Cars Diecast line pulls that off. We have these little arrows that are always on Jackson's design, and interestingly, his paint scheme seems a bit darker than usual. I'm not really sure if that was the intention. Jackson usually has a very dark gray. Here it's almost a bit more black, and interestingly, the faded area of him appears to be a bit of a lighter gray than usual. So this part's darker than usual, this part is lighter than usual, and I just think that's pretty interesting, especially because if you look across other GRC cars like McQueen, you have the red that fades into sort of a smoky gray black color, and then in the case of Jackson, it starts with a darker color and fades into a lighter color there. I really like how the side looks here. Again, pretty reminiscent of your standard Jackson, but with some really nice touches that really makes this item pop from the side. This just looks like, kind of an upgraded Jackson compared to the original, something that I feel is true for a lot of different GRC variants. We've got his secondary sponsors here, which are actually not his regular secondary sponsors. They're the international sponsors that we've seen on several other GRC cars, including Petrola Ravioli. I honestly can't read that next one. I can't tell what it says. This one looks like it just says Rio, and then the Piston Cup. Actually, that's not just the Piston Cup, that's the Piston Cup Champion logo, showing that, of course, this takes place after Cars 3. Always a nice detail to get a Piston Cup Champion logo on a Jackson. We see it on Expanded Universe variants quite often, to, again, kind of confirm that timeline placement, since he does have that in the entire back half of the movie. Got the GRC with his number there. GRC logo here. Actually, it looks like the decimal is missing from the 2.0, which is interesting. GRC logo inside of the giant Jackson S, which I think is a really nice touch. Igniter logo down here as well, and that really nice hexagon pattern, which I think works really well. Another thing that I think works really well is this really cool dark blue that they have on the back half of Jackson, replacing the black that we usually have. Honestly, so wild that this item has these random international secondary sponsors from the background of Cars 2. I think that's so cool. But again, this is supposed to be sort of a McQueen versus Francesco race. So having him be sponsored by several Italian sponsors makes perfect sense, of course, while McQueen, meanwhile, is sponsored by the Radiator Springs buildings, which is another nice touch here. Even Jackson's wheels feel like they've been upgraded with the Lightyear text in the really nice light blue color that's used as sort of an accent color on a lot of GRC cars. You'll see multiple GRC cars have these sort of light blue stripes, and Jackson's no exception. We see them here and on the wheels, including kind of around the rim there, and it looks like even the bolts on the tire, or sorry, the bolts on the wheel have been colored in, which is crazy. That's something I feel like we literally never see done. Light blue is also there, and I can't get over how great this dark blue looks, especially on the spoiler there with that really, really nice shade and the GRC logo. And of course, the hexagon pattern stretching all the way across the car until it ends here towards the front of the hood. On the back also looks really cool with just the dark blue and the hexagon pattern and the Global Racers Cup writing there. This looks very World Grand Prix to me. This really reminds me of how the back of a World Grand Prix car would look. 2.0 there. There's a look at the other side. And finally, there is a look at the base. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to read the other secondary sponsors on him. Okay, that one doesn't say Rio. That one says Ride. That one says maybe Rev. I don't know, guys. I'm so sorry. Rev Ham. Dom. I'm sorry. I feel so stupid. I don't know what that says. Please let me know in the comments. I'm sure by now 30 people already have commented. Anyway, moving on to Miguel Camino. Honestly, as far as GRC cars go from a design standpoint, Miguel is one that I wish was a bit more different from his usual counterpart. He's one of the GRC cars that's easily the most similar, and you'll see very few changes on him throughout from a design standpoint. But the one thing that Miguel does have really going for him is, funny story, he's actually significantly more movie accurate to the Miguel Camino character than the original diecast is. And he's not even in the movie. For starters, his color scheme is quite a bit more yellow than other Miguel Caminos, or at the very least, much more yellow than the current Thailand incarnation of him. And I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I honestly don't really mind. I think it looks pretty good. But I'm sure you know by now the major changes made to this version of Miguel to make him stand out a bit more, that being the windows and the black spoiler. The original Miguel Camino diecast has his windows painted over, carrying over his traditional paint design going over the windows. But that's actually not accurate to the movie. You know, for years I thought that was like a cool detail with the character, and then I learned, no, it's not in the movie. He has regular windows in the movie, as you can see from his GRC art, which is just edited from his regular artwork. And also in the movie, he has a black spoiler, and the diecast always had a red one. Honestly, I think I do kind of prefer the colored in window and the red spoiler on Miguel, but I think that's just because I'm so used to the diecast. In reality, he is supposed to have a black spoiler and regular colored windows, and the fact that the GRC variant is the first ever Miguel, I believe the first ever Miguel, to do this is absolutely wild. I know a lot of people who really, really like GRC Miguel, and I think a lot of people like him because he's more accurate in that way. So I do have to give him props for that, while I'm not the biggest fan of just how similar he looks to that regular release. Those updates are ones that were sorely needed, and here's hoping they come to the regular Miguel at some time soon. Got the Global Racers Cup logo there on his hood, or I guess it's the writing. Incredibly small writing. Very, very, very small. I wish it were a bit bigger. Again, this is one of the GRC cars where you could barely tell it's a GRC car, honestly. If the main thing that looks different about this Miguel is the fact that the colors are more accurate, then I think it's kind of, you know, not doing the best job being a unique expanded universe variant. This is what every Miguel should have looked like with those correct colors. You know, just looking at it, you can't really tell it's an expanded universe item, in my opinion. Interestingly, the sort of grid pattern on his hood is a bit different. Not sure if that was a deliberate change made to the GRC version, or if that's another thing that's supposed to be more accurate from the original. Honestly, it could be either. I can't quite tell, unfortunately. Another thing that I think this Miguel does better than the original is that facial expression. This one looks really on point with how the character looks, in my opinion. This one is also pretty good, but I just really, really like the face here. It's wild to think that this is a Miguel Camino with a new facial expression. I'm pretty sure this is the first Miguel ever to have a unique face. All the other ones use this original face. There was also the canceled flame variant, but obviously that doesn't count. He does have the hexagon pattern, very, very slight and subtle compared to other characters. It is there if you look, not on the window though, just kind of here, very, very subtly. GRC logo on the side. The side has his usual designs removed in place of the GRC logo, which is interesting. He kind of strikes this interesting balance that you can see on a lot of the World Grand Prix cars in the GRC line, where they tried to figure out how much of the original art do we keep, and how much do we try to make look all techie and modernized with these hexagon patterns. In the case of Miguel, they said just remove the whole side, make it blank, and add the GRC logo in there. He also has those same secondary sponsors, or at least a few of them. They're in a bit of a different order. Number 5 all the way back there, which is interesting. And he also has this really nice black kind of carbon fiber design that also looks like it's painted on, which is really cool and matches the original Miguel design pretty well. He also has these really nice red wheels, which I think also look pretty great. GRC logo there on the beautiful black spoiler. Look at that. This is what he should have looked like the whole time. Come on, Miguel. Do better. You're better than this. That also has a sort of carbon fiber paint detailing on it. Back window here is interesting. I'd assume this is also more movie accurate, but I'm not sure. I guess there is the paint over the back window in the movie, but just not all the way. Kind of looks like it's meant to appear translucent. But yeah. Roofs are basically the same. Moving on to the back. Oh, I thought it would have a black design. It doesn't. We just have these 3 colors. Basically the same as regular Miguel, but with the GRC logo in place of the regular logos. Again, a lot of this is just like they removed what's usually on Miguel and they replaced it with the GRC stuff. I take back what I said with him not being too different. He actually is quite different from his original release, and I'm not really sure how I fully feel about that, because again, a lot of this does look like they removed parts of Miguel and just slapped GRC logos in their place, but I do think he does a much better job at combining the classic design with the GRC design than somebody like, say, maybe Carlo Veloso, who I think isn't the best when it comes to the design there. I also just realized that this part was actually inspired by this red part on the side of Miguel, which is pretty cool. Of course, Miguel's diecast is kind of famous for having 2 completely different sides. Maybe not famous, but yeah, he does have 2 different sides. Here, they did give him 2 identical sides, which I think is fine. A shame, because GRC McQueen has 2 different sides, but here, clearly, they based him off of this side of Miguel and just put it on the other side as well. So an item I'm honestly kind of mixed on. I want to really, really like this item. Like, I wish I were sitting here showering it with praise. And, maybe I should. Maybe I should, but I'm honestly so mixed and conflicted with this because, again, the best parts of this Miguel are the parts that should have been on every Miguel from the beginning. The better color, the better spoiler. I didn't even mention the little black bars on the other sides of the eye, of the eyes, which actually isn't accurate to the picture, but I kind of like it better. And the windows being better and the face being better. These are all things that really should have been on the regular Miguel diecast. Other than that, I think he's perfectly fine, and he does do a good job at capturing that mix of traditional World Grand Prix design and more techie industrial design. It is a shame that it does come at the cost of removing what's usually on his sides and replacing it with something far more generic. But at the end of the day, I think he turned out pretty well. My main issue with him is really that front and the fact that it looks basically identical. Jackson's fronts are pretty similar, but at least they made the hexagons a bit more prominent than they are in Miguel, and they also made that logo nice and big and visible. But there you have it, guys. A 2-pack with, in my opinion, easily 2 of the coolest, most unique looking items in the GRC line. I think Jackson looks great. I think Miguel looks really great as well. 2 very interesting cars for this series, with Jackson, not having interacted with these characters before, and with Miguel fixing previous issues of Miguel diecast. Certainly a unique 2-pack. Certainly one that's going to go down in history as a very strange one for including Jackson Storm and Miguel Camino together, but the GRC line has been knocking it out of the park, and I'm so glad to add 2 more cars to my collection, 2 more cars that look incredible. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.